pretty soon.
There we go. And we are live.
It says you are alive. You are alive. Well, I'm glad about one thing, and the one thing I'm glad about is that we don't have any problem talking about something for the week.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Because I think for
Oh,
both of us, we were preparing something for either yesterday or today, so we'll be able to tell our listeners about those two things.
yes.
Miss Ruth,
Yes, we miss our buddy. It's not
nothing
it's
to
not the
share
same.
when she's not there, but
No, it is not the
promised
same when we don't have our buddy.
her, I promised her we would do a good job. We wouldn't embarrass her.
Embarrassed her, right? We're not gonna embarrass her. We're gonna have a really good show. That's what we're gonna
We
what's
would
us gonna
behave.
do.
We would behave. Well, it's never the show. It seems like we always have some kind of crazy issues that will come up from time to time. But
So
not today. Not today. Today is
no, we're gonna speak life over this computer, all that.
it's gonna be a good day and a good
Because I am not on my phone tonight. I am on the computer.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's going to work and it's going to be fine. And
Yep.
you got everything set up the way that
Yes.
you need to so
Yes.
that you don't freeze and go away and leave me
Yep. And
alone.
if I do, you know what I'm going to do.
Switch over.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so far, so good.
Well, let's see. Did you get a calendar? We have a calendar, I think, that is going to tell us who we got coming up and what we
Yep.
have coming
I
up.
read it and I opened it up and I looked at it a little bit earlier today. Yes. So Ruth is good about that. What
Yeah.
will we do without our friend and our sister?
And we've got I see she's got some tips coming up on June the 4th. Our
Okay.
first one in June. And we have a Samantha Creech coming in May, and Kanisha Everett coming in May. So we
Yeah.
got a full calendar.
I'm looking forward to our Mother's Day presentation. So whatever we're going to do, I'm looking forward to that too.
Yep. And that will be here very, very soon.
Exactly.
Tell you what, this time is going by real fast.
I'm telling you.
But I'm real excited about everything that is on the horizon. And I think we're ready to go. If Mr.
Yes, I think so too.
and gets us started, I think we can go ahead and start our program tonight.
Yes.
Mr. Chaffins, where are you? Well, good evening, and welcome to Authors Up. This is your place to be on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. We always have good guests and good information and great topics and things to share with you from the world of writing. And no less this evening. So we are glad to be here and we're glad that you are here. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And hey there, Victoria, Queen Victoria.
Hello, how are you, darling?
I am well.
Good.
Doing well also, I do believe.
I am fine.
Awesome. That's good. We're going to get started as we usually do with our week in review.
All
And I'm going to let you go first.
Well, hello, everyone. First of all, welcome. Those of you in podcast land and those of you also on SIBN and on Facebook Live. We just thank you so much for joining us. We're missing our buddy tonight who's out of town, but Miss Ruth will be back next week, and we're gonna make her proud tonight. We're gonna do it.
Yep.
My week was uneventful in the week. And I ended up the weekend not feeling so great. But today was a wonderful day. I felt better when I got up this morning, and I was able to see my daughter perform this afternoon. And she was Nettie in the color purple at the Gallery Place, did a performance at the Paramount Theater in Burlington, North Carolina. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh my goodness, my child. Just I always saw that when from a child. When she does the role, she becomes that role. You absolutely believe she is that person.
Mhm.
So she was Nettie tonight. She was Nettie,
It's
and it
good.
was wonderful, wonderful. We
Wish
were.
I could have gone to see her
Me
because I
too.
always love to see her perform, and she
Oh,
does such a
it was
great job.
wonderful. And the play itself, I had never seen The Color Purple live. I've seen the movie, of course, several times, but I've never seen the play. I've just heard excerpts of some of the music, and it was just wonderful. It really was. And the play goes a little bit further, I think, into the story than the book does, just a little bit. And so
Mhm.
I was surprised at a couple of things, but it was really, really nice. And a talented group of people who did it. And today's show was sold out, standing ovation. So it went really well, and I would think there'd be a little bit of sadness on their behalf because they only did 6 shows. So
Yeah,
it was really nice. It was really, really good. So that
that's
was it. That was
that's
it.
good. That's good. Well, my week
About you?
was um, a busy week. I had a busy week, and I can
Yes, you
now
did.
take a deep sigh. Thank you.
Yes, you did.
Done. Everything was getting ready and prepping for a reading for His glory, which was on Saturday, and I had a great time. I
It
had
was
a great time.
it was
I'm glad
beautiful.
it's done, but it was something that I knew I was supposed to do, and I was
Yeah.
so happy for the people that came out. I was so happy that there were no storms. It was beautiful
Right.
weather.
We had a good
So,
time.
yeah, so
It
nothing
was.
deterred
I,
me.
I just say congratulations on your books.
Thank you.
I just want to be like you when I grow up.
No, please.
Ah,
Well,
you
I'm
look
glad you made it
beautiful.
out.
You look beautiful, and you did amazing with the reading. You are so personable. You're so funny, and the readings were just amazing, and they really heartfelt. And you could just tell God was all in it, and y'all should get the books. That's all I can say. Hey, Jamila, how are you? Y'all should get the
Bella,
book.
good to have you tonight. Well, I was grateful, and now I said that I would have to go out and post ready for round two, because now we're in full swing to get ready for Make It Count in June 10th. So I kind of think that May is going to be our Make It Count month. That we're going to do some really intentional things in the month of May. So I don't know what that is, and I'm not sure what that looks like, but I know God has a plan. so so we need to just get ready for it. But tonight
Tonight.
we got something special for the folks. And that is our guest for the evening, and her name is Ethel Paris Gaynor. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She is a driven, steadfast executive level advocate for disability awareness. She is a noted public speaker and trainer. A native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Gaynor relocated to Virginia in 2007. She earned her doctorate of ministry degree from Virginia Union Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology. In addition, she has a master's in education and social work from the University of Pittsburgh and a master's of divinity from Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. A published writer, she is an ordained reverend and works as a mental health therapist, consultant, and minister. She's got a lot going on, you guys.
Amen.
She enjoys providing education, advocacy, and training to people with disabilities. Her personal philosophy is embodied in an African proverb, and I love this. And it says, excellence can be obtained if you care more. more than others think is wise,
Mm.
risk more than others think is safe, dream more than others think is practical, and expect more than others think is possible. Isn't that
Right.
great?
It is
Love
beautiful.
that. This outlook is reflected in her work as assistant pastor at Spreading God's Word Outreach Ministry there in Richmond, Virginia.
Yes. A believer in service and community participation, Dr. Gaynor is founder of Divine Destiny Disability Ministry. Is also a volunteer mentor for Henrico's Heroes, member of the State Advisory Board for Virginia's United Holy Church, appointed by the governor to the Virginia Board of People with Disabilities, serving on the executive committee and advocacy outreach and training committee, and has been elected as the chairperson for the board in 2019. She also served on the advisory committee member for the 25th Street Richmond Public Library. Dr. Gaynor is married to Pastor Preston Gaynor and has one son, Lamar, a daughter in law, Capri, and grandsons, Carter and Camden. And after we take a short break, we are going to meet this fabulous woman of God and hear her story and talk about her book, Stroke Forward Life Beyond Disabilities.
I
We'll be
can't
right back.
wait. It's going to be great. There she is. Welcome, Ethel. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. And thank
Welcome,
you for
welcome.
the beautiful introduction. It kind of took me back, just hearing what has been going on through this journey. Thank you. And nice to meet you both. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I know you were saying, "Who's that? Did I do all that? Was that me?" That's how it is. But we welcome you to Authors Up, and you are truly an author that we would love to talk to, and talk about. So we're just going to jump right in. Please tell the audience about your book. Just tell us about your book and how it came to be.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, the book is about my journey as a stroke survivor. I had a stroke or survived a stroke, let's say it that way, in April 2007, April 20th, 2007 to be exact. So it's been 16 years. April is, so dear to me because now it's like, I felt like I was given a second chance. And
Amen.
we moved to Richmond for me to start working in a job after finishing seminary. And, you don't think that you're under stress and you think that, life is fine and everything is going okay. I was here alone in the middle of the night, had stroke
Oh,
symptoms. And for a while, I didn't think I was going to make it. We weren't sure if we were going to stay here in Richmond or not. And so the book talks about that journey, being a stroke survivor and coming to the realization that, I felt that God had put so much in me. As you read my biography or resume, a little bit about my background, experience, and education, I felt that God had put so much into me for me not to continue to do the work that He had called me to do in ministry.
amen.
And I
Mhm.
wasn't sure which way I was going to go. I didn't know anything about disability and ministry intersecting or being together, and started doing research. And one night, feeling kind of depressed and in despair, and
Wow.
like my back was against the wall, I didn't know what we were going to do. I came across a program, and a woman was talking, and her name is um, Joni Erickson Tata, and she is a quadriplegic. And you can
Yes.
about her; she's an author. She does ministry work. She didn't stop. She didn't let her disability stop her.
Right.
And she does disability ministry. And I thought, oh my goodness, here is somebody doing what I feel like I need to do. and she was interviewing a young man by the name of Nick Vucek. And he is a man who was born with no arms and no legs. And he was talking about the awesome stuff that he was doing in ministry,
Yeah.
taking wheelchairs and advocating for young people to be against bullying. And she's sending wheelchairs all over the world. And so in 2010, so I was, so that night that really helped to change my perspective and my outlook on myself and renew my faith in what I felt that God had called me to do,
Amen.
continue in ministry. And so I applied to seminary, got accepted, and I needed to do a project. I needed to do have some direction into where I was going in the ministry. And so I flew out to Jody's ministry in California,
Wow.
back on a plane after having a stroke, and went there alone, rented a car. God is just so wonderful, and the trip was awesome. Got to see how they were doing disability awareness and talking about inclusion. And so that was the beginning of my journey for the outcome of this book. Came back, finished seminary, and started Divine Destiny Disability Ministry, and continue to do uh, workshops in the community for people with disabilities and their caregivers, and also churches, to educate them on
Right.
the need to be inclusive and to be accessible to people with disabilities. So that's a little bit about how the journey got started.
Wow. How did the book come about? When
So
did you decide to write that?
the book came, some of the book came from the research of my out of my dissertation, because I had to do a project. And so I interviewed a lot of people, a sample group of people who had disabilities, to find out why they were not going to church, or why they were not
Oh,
going to community activities, to find out what were their needs. And also interviewed churches and some community groups to find out what they felt they were doing to be inclusive, if they were accessible. Were people
mm-hmm.
able to get into the building? Did they have accessible bathrooms? Were the programs Did the programs have large print for those who might have vision impairment
Yeah.
issues? So trying to let the so it was like a twofold thing
Mm-hmm.
with the individuals, just evaluating their needs, and also for the church pastors and leaders to start to look at their members and what the needs of the members are.
Mhm.
And also another thing is, are we, the church, doing outreach to people with disabilities? And a lot of times that's not happening. Churches might not have vans. Uh,
Right.
we moved here to Richmond, and we went to visit one church, and they didn't have even a basic thing like a handrail for me to go up the steps independently. So
Wow.
there's a lot of basic things that people who are not disabled don't think about. And
Mhm.
so
Right.
this gives us a time to think about things, to be inclusive.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, Ethel, were you involved in working with the disabled in any way, shape, or form prior to your uh, to having your stroke, or did having the stroke kind of push you and steer you in that direction?
So I am a social worker, and so I work with people with mental illness, which is a
Hmm.
disability.
Right.
So
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
not working with, or aware of the need for the needs of people with physical disabilities. I was not aware, had not worked with them, had been working with, youth in the school, doing counseling, and working in the home with adults and children in the area of mental health, um, but not physical disabilities, no.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that is important too, because a lot of times when you talk about disability, you think just physical, but mental health is
Right.
also a disability.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're so
Yeah.
right. And I think it was interesting. Victoria and I had talked about it prior to coming on the air. That there was a sentence that you said about um, the disabled, and you didn't say where the disabled could get help. You said where the disabled could get hope.
Amen.
And I
Mm.
thought that was such, just so interesting. Talk to us a little bit about that issue of hope versus help, because I think that there is something very
Yes,
powerful in that.
yes, because and that is so pivotal right now because I come across people. I want to say almost every day, but it seems like it's every day, but it's at least twice a month, twice a week, where I'll meet someone, um, and they'll come up to me and they'll ask me, what happened to you? If you mind me telling, tell me a little bit about what's going on with you. And they're concerned about their loved one, their spouse, their mother, their sister, who has had a stroke or is facing another physical challenge, and they're feeling hopeless. They're feeling despair. They don't want to leave the house. And I
Mhm.
feel that the church most definitely should be a place where people with disabilities, either physical disabilities or mental disabilities, can come to receive the hope, because we know that you know our hope is in Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
Right,
our
right.
faith helps sustain us through the most difficult times. And I have to say, my faith was shaken. My husband's and my son, they were like, mom, she's loves the Lord, and she's out there working with working with people with mental health issues and mentoring and doing all this stuff. A good person, all that. And so, why did this happen to her? And so, my husband, he always says, and he has that in the forward, that God trusted me to go through to survive having a stroke because he knew he could trust me with this type of ministry to advocate, to to help people with disabilities to have not to help them have hope, to see that they can help, to see that they're not alone. You and
Right.
I felt that I was alone initially until I was able to see Joni Erickson and Nick Vucek doing ministry, and I thought if they could do it, I could do it. So that's that hope. I was at an affair yesterday, and a young lady came to the affair in a wheelchair with her caregiver, and she looked around, and then she started leaving out. And I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "There's nowhere for me to maneuver and sit with my wheelchair." I said, "You're not leaving anywhere. We are going to move some chairs up and make a space for you." And so that gave her hope. She was smiling, she was happy. And that helped her know that. And I told her, I said, "You have to advocate for yourself. You have to tell people what you need as a person
Right.
with disability."
Mm.
Right.
So that's that, enabling them to have hope,
Right.
not just helping them, but helping them to advocate for themselves. And I've
Yes.
learned how to do that
Mhm.
throughout this journey.
Yes.
Ethel, you also said something about families, that
Mhm.
when there's a disability, and I think that is true of any level of disability or mental health or any of those issues, chronic illness issues, and all those things, that it can either unify a family or fracture the family.
Mm,
And I was looking at that, and I wondered if you had any advice in terms of how to keep that fracture from
hmm
taking place. Is there something that we need to be aware of? Because stroke, sometimes mental illness is an overtime thing. When you have chronic illnesses like Victoria does, it's an overtime thing. But when a stroke hits, I mean, it is just there, and it takes
hmm
you so makes you so unaware. I mean, when we talk about the unexpected things happening in life, that
hmm
is truly one of them. And I know that we now have more information on stroke symptoms, like you were talking about earlier, that you had some symptoms there. Um, but as a family member who is dealing with another family member who is going through these things that I can't put my finger on, that I don't understand,
Mhm.
and all of the changes that go through or go with that. How do I extend what I need to, so that I don't add to the hopelessness or add to the, fear and all those things. What can that other family member do to keep that from happening?
That is such an awesome and important question because I see that all the time as well. My husband, he didn't want, and we as caregivers, they tend to want to do everything for the person. And so at first he was kind of doing everything for me, but then he said to me, Ethel, you're gonna have to get in the car. You're gonna have to learn how to drive. And my stroke was not such that I was not able to see. Some people can't drive because their vision is impaired and what have you, but I was able to still, keep my license and be able to drive.
Oh, good.
Baby steps at a time. But for him, it was helping me be independent. Also, going to stroke support groups with me initially. Now I go by myself. It was also there was a stroke camp that's a national stroke camp that happens once a year throughout the country. In Richmond, it happens in October, and so he went to the first two stroke camps with me. Now I kind of go by myself, but he was there to support me in the beginning, and that was important for me because just having that support, but
Right.
not enabling me or making me feel handicapped, and that's what we don't want to do to our loved ones.
Mhm.
Also, for caregivers, encourage your loved one to go out. There's a young man that I know, his father. He's a barber, and his father had a stroke, and he's always talking to me about his father not going out. He bought my book for his father. I told him, have your father call me. I'd love to talk to him. And, he just hasn't made that step yet. So it's up to the person to make that first step. But for the caregiver, just don't get overwhelmed. Go to support groups. There are support groups for you to go to along with your loved one. But just know that you are not alone. There are support groups out here to provide you with support through conversation. And also there's and I talked about this today at church, because respite, if you have family members who could take time, can step in for you for a day or a couple hours so you could, just get out and just breathe, have some time to yourself. So
Right.
that respite assistance, kind of helps through that process as well. But be supportive, be kind, be encouraging, continue to love that person, let them know that they are loved, and that you, the caregiver, be encouraged for sure. That what you're doing is so awesome. Um,
Right.
I'm thankful for my husband because I've heard otherwise. I've heard of people tell stories that they have a stroke and their spouse leaves them, and it's just so
Yeah.
sad. But they get sick and the loved one is gone, and they're that adds to their pain. But I tried to just stay active. My husband said you're just so busy, you're going all the time. I got back into golfing. Tomorrow I leave to go to a church conference.
What?
I just keep,
What?
I just keep myself busy because
Golfing.
I
Wow.
Wait a minute.
North Carolina. So, just you are not alone. You're loved, and what you're doing is so important for your loved one, and know that they appreciate it, even if they don't verbalize that they do, because I know it can be overwhelming.
I gotta say one thing here before I let Victoria back in here. But you, I worked
Wait a
with
minute.
a I worked with an individual who had lost her sight. She could not see, and one thing, and we have gotten away from it, is using the term handicap.
Mhm.
And her bowling average was higher than mine. She was dating, she had Thanksgiving dinner for 25, 30 people. And I said, she's not handicapped, she just can't see. It's
Mhm.
because everything else in her life was just 100. I mean, she was going and doing, and I think that is so important, that people know and understand that life really is not over. It is not over at
Exactly.
all when these things happen. Victoria.
Well, I want to hear about this golfing stuff because I guess my question to you it would be, well, were there any residual health challenges you had after the stroke? Because we're looking at you today. You seem like you're talking
Yes.
fine.
Mhm.
Are you using wheelchairs, walkers, anything like that? And because I couldn't tell. I really couldn't tell by looking at you or talking to you.
Yes. Well, thank you. That's a good question. And so I do have the stroke did affect the right side of my body.
Okay.
So and I was right-handed. So I had to learn how to write all over again with my left hand.
Uh-uh.
And I look at my writing today and when I first started, and it was funny because when I went out to visit Joni at her uh, ministry in California, here she writes with a pen in her mouth, and her handwriting is just beautiful. She paints with,
Right. I
you
remember
know,
her.
Oh,
and I said, oh my goodness, I wish I could do that. And she said, Ethel, don't compare yourself. Do what you could do at this time and be happy for what you can do. Don't compare yourself. And that was so important. And
wise advice.
practice writing, practice writing. So now I write with my left hand. I use the computer, and I had to use the computer because I had that job that I came to Richmond for, and I had that job as a outreach director doing
Right.
here in Richmond. So I had to. They hired me. They didn't fire me after I had the stroke. I stayed on the job for a year,
Wow.
and so I had to learn how to use assistive technology to help me with typing and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which it's all on everything now, but
Mhm.
yeah, so I do walk with a cane outside. In the house, I don't use a cane. And my right leg was a little weak, but it's gotten a lot stronger because I go to therapy, I go to the gym, and I make it a practice to walk at least 5,000 more steps a day.
Well,
And
good. Yeah,
activity.
and you golf. Could you tell us how the
And so,
golfing game?
so yeah, so I go with Sheltering Arms, and that's a program that works with people with disabilities, in particular strokes. And so I started golfing with them probably about 9, 10 years ago. And
Wow.
it was just really, and the funny thing is, my husband had bought me a set of golf clubs when we were in Pittsburgh, and I had no interest in golf. But it seemed like I just want to do everything. And it gets me outside, it gets me around other people
Right.
and I could, who are not only stroke survivors, but amputee individual people who have amputations, and
Right.
they're all playing golf. And then they have this piece of golf equipment where it lifts you up for those who are unable to stand at all. It lifts them up so that they are able to stand up and golf. So
Oh.
Wow.
was affected. My right arm is still affected, but I use it as much as I can. And my
Right.
right leg is still a little weak, but I use it as much as I can. And I walk with the cane outside. Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Brandy, welcome to you. I didn't acknowledge Brandy coming on the line tonight. Thank you for being with us this evening. Um, I want to go into divine destiny disability ministry
Yes.
because we were talking a little bit before we came on air about how churches will have, and other places, not just churches, but other places have are concerned about the physical things. Like you said, do I have a rail? Is there a ramp? Are there things that will physically and structurally accommodate somebody with a disability? But that's usually as far as it goes.
Right.
And we had begun to talk about, why is that? Why is it that the church, you would think, would be ahead of the curve, just because we are who we are as believers, but yet some of the tools and things that just are not there to minister to those folks who need that hope and not just that help. So tell us how you started that. I think it was probably crafted after you met Joni at the summit and all that. But tell us a little bit about how you're managing that and how it got started, because there may be somebody else on the line who has a passion or a desire to help in that area, and they have no clue how to get started or what they need to do. So help us out.
Yes, that is such an awesome question, and it's such an important need for our church to be inclusive. Our church, which is made up of members, we are, often overwhelmed because there's so many needs. Church is trying
Right.
to feed the homeless, and then we're trying to, work with the youth, and do all the ministry, the regular normal stuff that we
Right.
do outside
Right.
of the church. But I taught today to our church about the need to go outside of the church, and what are we doing outside? What are those intersections that we're doing outside of the church? And so Divine Destiny Disability Member Ministry was an outgrowth of, one, my going to visit Joni in her ministry in California, but also out of my doctor of ministry research at Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology. I had to do a project. And so for me wanting to continue in ministry, I needed to understand more what are the needs of not only the church to be inclusive and to be accepting of people with disabilities, but also how people with disabilities are feeling about the church. Why are they not going to church? And I did look at some research, and I think it was like 10% of people with disabilities don't feel comfortable going to church on Sunday. They don't feel included. Uh, they don't feel like they would be inclusive. They don't feel like they will be utilized by the church. And I think that the issue with that is that the church, the pastors, the leaders just don't know how to be inclusive. And then you have people coming to church with disabilities, they're feeling uncomfortable about speaking up about being utilized in the church,
Right.
not knowing how their gifts and talents that they have, because we all have them, can still be utilized in the church.
Right.
You could be making phone calls on the prayer line. You could be, usher at the door. You could be in the
Yeah.
play an instrument. Whatever you want to do, there is a need for your gift and talent in the church. So, as a part of my the program, I had to do a workshop. So I did a disability awareness workshop and had speakers come in talking about different things, such as uh, um, accessibility equipment, ramps, exercise, meals. Someone came in from Sheltering Arms, talked about their programs. So it was an inclusive program. I had a pastor come and talk about things that they're doing at their particular church. Um, and so that's how it got started. We're having workshops at least once a year, and either a workshop or a ministry type awareness, including mental health. We would do the church and mental health concerns, um, and just trying to educate the church to be accepting and accessible to people with disabilities, and to encourage people with disabilities to speak up to your pastors. Let them know that you have gifts and talents and what you're interested in doing in
Right.
the ministry.
Ethel, when you talk to other churches, um, do you do you find you get much pushback? I mean, sometimes we have really good programs and we know that they're good and we know that they're needed. And we kind of think, I'm going to go in with this and, you know, I'm going to be what they've been looking for and waiting for all of this time. And yet they don't really embrace it as
Right.
quickly, as you think they would.
Right.
Do you
Right.
find that?
I think it helps when there is someone in the church who is helping to advocate for a disability ministry in the
Yes.
church.
Got
The
Right.
my church, I'm there. I was asked to speak at a church in Hampton, and the woman who asked me to speak is visually impaired, and I went to speak at that church in Hampton, and it was phenomenal. Uh, the organist was a young man who was visually impaired, but he just played that organ unbelievably. The ushers had some kind of a disability, They had a praise and dance and mime group. I mean, everybody in was doing something, but they were all had a disability, and
Mm-hmm.
this was the Disability Awareness Sunday. So it helps if there is someone at the church who has a disability who is going to advocate for having a disability ministry, because
Right.
you need the church will need to assess, what are the disabilities in the church. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you may have one person who's visually impaired and three people in a wheelchair. They need to do an assessment of what the needs of the congregation
Are.
are, and
Mm-hmm.
and also assess the church to see if the church is meeting those needs currently, or what do we need to do as a church? Do we need to have our bathroom updated to be handicap accessible?
Mm-hmm.
Can people in wheelchairs, are they able to come into the building? Are there handrails? So it's having that person there is important. And the churches that I have spoken to in the past, they have all been you know, in agreement for this particular need. As a matter of fact, the national conference that I'm going to this week, I spoke to the educational director because a couple of women had written a book, and I had just seen it last week, and I called her, and she said, "Well, there was a collaborative book that was written, and they're going to be doing the book signing." She said, "But if I had known you were interested, I would have had you come and have your book at this signing. But please do come and bring your book." And she said, "I did want to talk to you further because it seems like I've heard about you because I have written an article about disability awareness for our church publication, national publication." And she said, "And there needs to be more discussion about this on the national churchwide level." And so that was like a
Yeah,
big for me.
Yes. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, thank you. So I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to that conversation on Tuesday morning. Pray for me.
Good.
It
Good.
goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Victoria always has something that she likes to say about this time. And sometimes these evenings go by so fast.
They do. They do. My tagline: Get the book.
There
Get
you
the
go.
book. Get the book. Our viewers and our listeners, you got to get this book. This is a very important topic. Dr. Gaynor talks very candidly about her experience, and she lists statistics in this book
Yeah.
that are mind blowing because I didn't know some of the things until I read it. And I was telling her also before the program, I have fibromyalgia, and what they call mine is an invisible disability, right? But
Mhm.
there are some things that you touched on, and it was really it really touched my heart. It really did. So I enjoyed your book, and it is really it's a much needed conversation. And I
Mhm.
wish you well with your book sales and in your speaking, that you're bringing awareness to a topic, and I know it's going to help a lot of people. Tell our listeners how they can get the book and how they can get in touch with you if they would like to.
Okay. And so the name of my book is Struck Forward, A Life
Oh,
Beyond.
you got a copy? Yeah. Look at it. Look
And,
at it.
yeah. So it is on Amazon. You can get the book on Amazon. And you can also get the book at EM, empgainer.com, the website. Um, and my Facebook page is Struck Forward Life Beyond Disability.
All right.
And so you can connect with us on Facebook and connect with us on Facebook and the website
Okay.
parisgainer.com.
All
And
right.
my
Thank you.
email.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Very good. Very good. Well, I tell you what, we appreciate you being here,
Yes.
Ethel. We appreciate you writing the book,
Yes.
because a lot of times we go through things and it doesn't even cross our mind to, to put it down. We have a lot of reasons for not doing it. I'm not an author. I can't edit it. I can't do this. I
I
can't.
don't want to talk about what happened to me.
Yes, yeah, I don't want to do that, but I just applaud you for having, life beyond, life
Yes.
beyond.
Yes.
disability, and giving that hope, not just help, and putting us in a place where we now, if we didn't understand before, we now have a different foundation for the empathy that's needed and the compassion that's needed, as
Mhm.
well as some of the facts that are needed
Right.
in order to make a difference where we are and in our community and with people that we may know. I remember a lady at church that uh, she was out of town and she had a stroke. She was at a conference
Oh, wow.
and she had a stroke. And she would never, people would ask her, "So how have you been since your stroke?" And she said, "I had a stroke, but it wasn't my stroke." It's like just her mindset
Mhm.
just would not. She said, I'm not taking hold of that. I
Mhm.
had a stroke, but it wasn't mine. That's not
Mhm.
that's not mine. And it really did affect, the doctors had said that it affected her healing. It
Mhm.
affected the way that she was able to embrace her life,
Mhm.
afterwards. So thank you for doing what you have done to bring awareness to something that is so important. And are there any final words that you would give our listening audience in terms of um, how to maneuver when you've got this kind of life journey?
Yes. First, I would like to thank you, Author Up um, podcast, for having me on the show this evening. And some words of encouragement is that you're not alone. There are people out here who are going through something every day. And, like it was just being said, a lot of times we don't want to embrace it. We're ashamed of it. And believe you me, it took me a while to go back home to Pittsburgh again because I didn't want anybody to see me like this.
Okay.
And it took
Okay.
me a couple years before I went home. And, it's a healing process. Be patient with yourself and know that you're not alone and you are able to continue and have a life and have it more abundantly.
Amen.
Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome. Those are good words. Those
Yes.
are good words. Well, Ethel, thank you again for being with us. Thank you, folks
Mhm.
out there who've been listening to us tonight. You can get or hear a replay of this broadcast on Saturday at 7 p.m. I think that's our broadcast time, isn't it?
Yes,
Is
it
that it?
is.
Every Saturday at 7 p.m. So you will be able to hear this information again. So if you were not able to, if you know someone who is interested in working with the disabled community, if you know someone in ministry who has a passion for this and doesn't know where to get started, or a caregiver, whatever, be sure to have them listen on Saturday. Come back in and listen. The program will be there at 7 p.m. So, tune in, go back, get some more information, because this is something that is not going to disappear. It's not going
No.
to go away. And we
Nope.
need to be well informed and well armed so we can provide that hope. So that is it for us for tonight. Again, Ethel, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your heart and sharing part of your life. We really appreciate it. Let me ask you one more thing before we let you go. Is there something else in the works that you have going on? Is it something with your Divine Destiny Disability ministry that you are pushing forward, or is there another book in the works, or
Yes, there is another book in the works and hope
Good.
in the fall. And also the disability ministry. The workshop shops had kind of stopped because of COVID, but I was asked today at church to start it back up. So we're going to probably look at starting to do another disability workshop later in the fall as well.
All
So
right.
if
Great.
anyone's interested in doing those workshops and need, just some practical assistance, feel free to contact me.
All
Okay,
right.
okay. And if there's anything that you would like for us to announce here on Authors Up, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
To keep people informed with what's going on and what's happening in that world.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All righty. Well, that's it for us for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for our YouTube followers and
Yes.
podcast followers and every
We're-
other kind of follower we got. We thank you for being with us. Thank you for embracing Ethel and the information that she had for us tonight. Victoria, do you have any closing comments
Just
before?
also thank you again, Ethel, for being with us. And if anybody has any questions, concern, if you know anybody who would like to be on a show, or if you'd like to be on our show, please send us an email at authorsup@gmail.com.
Authorsup@gmail.com. Y'all
That's
got
it.
that? Okay. Well, that's it for us for tonight. And guess what, guys? We're going to be right back here next week on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Best place you can be on a Sunday
That's
evening.
it. No other place to be, right?
Get back a little bit and see what else is going on in the world. So we'll be here next week, 7 p.m. Please join us if you can. Bring a friend, tell somebody else about the show so that they can enjoy it. And then you two can have discussion around it. And that would be
Yes.
a very good thing. Expand the information. So that's it for us for tonight. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, Ethel. And we look forward to talking with you guys next week. Have a wonderful week.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good
Night,
night.
John Farrell.